Everyone, and thank you for joining me for this live stream Q&A about Southern's response to the spread of the COVID-19 coronavirus and the potential impact on our community. After sending my initial video message yesterday, which summarized Governor Lamont's directives to Connecticut's public higher education institutions, I thought it was important to follow up and hear from you directly about your questions and your concerns. I'm going to respond with the information that is available to me at this time. And I want to reassure you again that we're doing everything we can to ensure that this campus remains a safe and healthy learning environment for all of its members. It's important to understand that this is an evolving issue with new scenarios appearing daily, if not hourly, quite frankly. And also to know that any major decisions about teaching online or closing the university will be made in concert with the governor by way of the Connecticut State College and University System Office. We expect to know during spring break whether we will shift to online teaching, as neighboring private institutions are doing, and we are preparing for that eventuality. I assure you that if we move online, everyone will receive the instructions they need and no one will be penalized. Just to be clear, however, a move to online teaching does not mean that we are closing the university. We will only be reconfiguring our learning module and method of delivery. Faculty would still have access to classrooms and labs, though may teach online from another location. For non-faculty employees, we're exploring telecommuting and adjustments to on-site staffing. But let me be clear, all student learning would be conducted off campus. Many of you have questions about spring break travel, and as you know, the governor has strongly discouraged all Connecticut residents from leaving the state during this time. I know this is confusing. I know that it is frustrating. I know that so many of you have made so many plans. But just to reiterate, if you must travel, please let us know your travel plans using the link that you'll find on the coronavirus webpage on our university website. I ask that you be prudent, to take personal responsibility for your health and the health of our community. This is a shared responsibility. So, if you travel to an affected area, whether this is abroad or in another part of the United States, you may need to self-quarantine on your return. If you believe you've been exposed or feel ill, stay home and contact your health service provider. In these cases, if you are a student, the travel information that we have asked of you to provide becomes particularly important. It will help us to navigate your individual situation with your professor and preserve your academic standing. By filling out that form, by keeping us informed, we can help you, and I promise you, you will not be penalized. Finally, if you're a member of our community and you're feeling ill, please talk with a healthcare professional. We have a limited number of rooms on campus for residential students to self-quarantine or for healthy students looking for a temporary place to live. But the best option is, if you are ill, stay home. For employees, if you feel ill at work, consult with your supervisor and return home. Your health and safety and preserving the health and safety of our colleagues, family, and friends is the most important thing. I know there is a lot of information to absorb, and I hope in the next hour or so to be able to answer many of your questions. But before I begin, I want to remind everyone that this is a situation that requires nimble thinking, flexibility, and teamwork. A number of you have already spent many hours preparing our response, and for that, I am deeply grateful. Remember, ours is a community of caring, We support each other in many ways here at Southern. We support each other in the Southern way. And that is our greatest strength as we navigate this evolving public issue together. Again, I know this is challenging. I know this is difficult. I know there's a lot of information to absorb, but I promise you we will get through this, and we will ensure that all of our students, all of our staff, all of our faculty are safe, and that our students will get the education that they deserve. And so with that, I'm going to invite Tracy Tyree, Vice President for Student Affairs, to join me, and she will be reading some of your questions. I will attempt to answer those questions to the best of my knowledge, best of my ability, but please understand that there is information we don't know, that a lot of the questions that have been presented to us is an evolving situation, as I've shared with you earlier. So Tracy will ask the questions that you've posted. I also have with me all of the vice presidents of the university. They will also be here to provide answers to some of your questions. So Tracy, how about we get started, okay?
Sure thing.
Great.
Is there a possibility we will switch to online classes, and when will that decision be made?
Yeah, as I said earlier, there is a strong possibility that we will, in fact, switch to online classes. If that, in fact, happens, we will make that decision over the spring break. We are currently putting all of the pieces in place for that to happen. Again, I expect that we would make that decision over the break and that we would keep people informed.
Why are lecture classes of more than 100 not being canceled?
Okay. Before you do that, I think the cameraman is asking you to step over a bit. Okay. We're live. We're not used to this. Lectures for classes of more than 100 have not been canceled. However, we have asked faculty members to make adjustments where necessary, and we are asking students to make personal decisions as it relates to those classes. I can probably count on less than one hand the number of classes that we have that have 100 students, and in most cases, almost all of our classes have less than 100 students, so it is not a significant concern at this time.
In fact, significantly less than 100
Significantly less
Yes.
than 100 students, that is correct, yes.
How will the university deal with students who go on spring break in spite of the mandate, and how can you possibly keep track of that?
Well, let's be honest here. One cannot possibly keep track of all of them. We can only do our best. And that's why we're asking people to take personal responsibility for themselves, for their health, and to be cognizant of how their decisions not only impact their own lives, but impact the lives of the members of our community. And so we are asking folks to complete those forms online. Let us know where you are at. So that when you do return, if you have questions, we can help you navigate that, and we can ensure that if by chance you need to be quarantined, we can ensure that you continue to get your education and that faculty members work with you closely. So I'm pretty confident that we'll be okay in this regard. Yeah.
On a similar note, if I live out of state, what should I be doing? Can I go home for spring break?
Go home for spring break, yes. I think a number of decisions will be made over the break. You may find that you'll go home, you'll be with your family. I hope that you'll relax, enjoy yourself, re-energize, and then we'll be able to share with you at that time whether or not you'll be coming back after spring break or if we'll be doing all of our educating online. I'm going to pause just for a second. I don't know if I've missed anything. You can't see them, but all of the vice presidents are to my right, and I'm just checking to make sure that we haven't missed anything yet. Okay, so I'm inviting them to just pop up anytime they want to just kind of step in and share, so don't be shy. All right, what else do we have?
Okay, if the school goes to quarantine, what steps will Southern take to make sure the residential international students who may not have family or a place to go within the U.S. are taken care of?
I'm actually going to let you answer that question as the Vice President for Student Affairs.
Sure, and I would sort of extend that to even students whose homes are too far to travel or have not made the plans to go some distance to their homes to travel. The residence halls will remain open per our spring break policies. And so right now we have asked students to sign up for spring break housing if they are looking to stay on campus, and there's a process by which that gets vetted and approved. If we move to online learning, we will continue conversations that we've begun about the residence halls remaining open, but we will not put anyone out. So we can guarantee that if students do not have some place to call home, even if we move to online learning, we will accommodate that and make those appropriate arrangements. And please be patient, because we are still trying to figure out what some of those details look like.
Sure. Great.
If classes aren't moved online, will shuttle service be affected? How are we treating students who commute in from out of state, or faculty and staff for that matter, who are commuting from out of state to the campus by train or other means?
Well, if we aren't moving classes to online, then it would be business as usual, quite frankly. We would have determined by that time that campus is safe in order to hold all of our classes on site. And I don't know if the provost has anything to add to that, but I would envision he's shaking his head no. Okay.
If I develop symptoms, what should I do? How long should I stay away from school? Will all out-of-state students be required to quarantine for 14 days after spring break? Where would we quarantine?
Okay.
There's a lot in that one.
There's a lot in that. Okay. If you develop symptoms, what should you do? You should see your healthcare provider as soon as possible.
And as a reminder, you should call first, because all the advice has been to call and let them know, because I understand some are triaging in some different ways before you would just show up at the door.
And as I understand it, for many individuals, you may have some cold-like symptoms, and they're actually asking folks to stay home, to take care of oneself, and most individuals will self-heal, is my understanding. I am not a doctor or a scientist or a medical professional, so the top advice, I'm sorry, could we go back to that question? The top advice is, again, make sure that you see your healthcare professional. No, not all students will be required to quarantine if they've left for spring break. Again, I think a lot of that is going to depend on what I said earlier. If you have traveled to an affected area and believe that you have been exposed, if you have symptoms, etc., those would determine whether or not individuals should self-quarantine. Okay?
Yes.
Now we can go to the next one.
Just in terms of where we would
go ahead.
quarantine. Yeah. So if you are at home, we would suggest that you stay home and self-quarantine at home. But I do want to reiterate what you said before. We do, in our health services, have a quarantine space if one were to go to the health center and be diagnosed from there. We also have quarantine spaces in the residence hall. So if you're a student that is not at home or does not have a place to go home to be quarantined, we have accommodations. They're ready for us, for students in the residence halls.
Terrific.
I have planned a vacation to a country with no travel restrictions and no reported cases. What will happen to me if I go?
Well, I guess my first hope is that you'll have a good trip and that you'll enjoy the experience, and that there will be no reported cases in the country that you plan to travel to. If, however, cases emerge in that country while you are there, again, our advice and counsel will be to self-monitor. When you return to the States, it is also very possible that you might be required to do so anyway by the State Department, so that's hard to say. But again, I think that when you return, if you believe you've been exposed, if you hear that there are cases in that country near where you have been staying, or if you are symptomatic, again, healthcare provider, and begin the process of self-quarantine, contact us and we will work with you to navigate your online education and your connections with your faculty.
If I mind, I would
Please.
just reiterate this is an individual health concern and a public health concern. And so when you're making those decisions, think about your own health, but also think about the people's health around you and our whole campus community. So you're making sort of a decision that is out of both of those lenses with an abundance of caution.
Next question.
Will this whole thing affect graduation?
I'm going to let the provost answer that question, so I'm going to move to the side here.
Lucky you.
Thank you. Our hope is that it will not affect graduation. We can make no absolute guarantees about how we reach that critical point, whether there'll be a small delay or hesitation in the exact date of graduation. But our intent is we're putting everything in place, everything we can possibly think of to prevent any kind of pause in our students' graduation. That being said, we are welcoming all ideas from our faculty and colleagues who have thoughts about our best process to ensure that is a reality.
Great.
Next question. Will Southern be hosting career fairs, including the ones scheduled for tomorrow?
No.
No, the Office of Career and Professional Development is working hard to consider some alternative means by which we can connect students to employers. And so stay tuned on that. They will keep students informed. But right now, we will not have a career fair this week.
I'd actually like to talk a little bit here about programs in general, events in general, because I know that a lot of members of our community have done a great deal of work, invested a lot of time and energy into the planning of numerous events, large or small. And so I know that these decisions have been a huge disappointment to individuals, and it's certainly been a source of stress beyond the academic piece. And so I think that Denise over in student activities will be working with student clubs and organizations. We will be working with faculty and staff to look for new and creative ways to continue to hold some of those programs if the opportunity presents itself. And depending on how things flush out over the course of the next month or so, we may find ourselves back in full force, and events that had been canceled, we may be rethinking whether or not we make changes to the schedule. Like I said before, flexibility is going to be key. Being nimble is going to be key. So know that we're aware of the concern, and we'll deal with it. Yeah.
Great. What does the athletic timeline look like? Will we be able to play games this season?
You want to answer that since athletic reports to you?
I'll start. This is an area of great disappointment for our athletes because right now, as the policy stands, we cannot compete with any teams out of state, either because we can't travel out of state or because people can't travel to us from out of state. And so we are taking this a little bit at a time. Right now, we've focused on competitions in the next 2 weeks. We will be making no trips for spring break, as have been previously planned. We do have some students right now, 3 students, I believe, who are at the NCAA championships for swimming and diving, and we are supporting that and monitoring their experience and wish them all the best as they compete nationally. We also have some athletes in track and field who are have qualified to compete at the NCAA championships, and we are monitoring that and continuing to support their competition individually, each of their situations. But regular season play and our spring break trips are suspended, and we will continue to monitor the situation as it evolves to see if there are any solutions that we can reconsider as time goes along.
2 other things that I'd like to mention. We are members of the NE10, that is our athletic conference. We are the only school, with the exception of the University of New Haven, in the state of Connecticut that is in that athletic conference. So as you can imagine, that poses some challenges for us. But we are working and in communication with the NE10 commissioner, and we are also in conversations through the NE10 with the NCAA. So some of these decisions may actually be made through the NCAA and through the NE10 as well. So I think we're monitoring that, we're in communication, and
that includes ECAC for gymnastics,
that's right,
where we compete.
Thank you. Yep.
Next question. Even if Southern decides to switch to online learning, what happens to the students who are in the field, student teaching and completely following a different protocol? Do they remain teaching?
And Bob Present, our provost, gets to come back up again.
So this is a critically important question that is actually pertinent not just to our student teachers, but to our many other students who are in the field in clinicals and a variety of other situations. Let's focus for a moment on the student teaching. As of today, the protocol remains you stay in place as far as I know. As long as schools are open and there is no immediate threat, it will be business as usual. For details on that, I would encourage anyone to connect with the College of Education, connect with Dean Hegedus to get details. In particular, you need to know that we're getting some leeway from the Department of Education as well. They understand the situation that we are all facing right now in the education world, and there are some stipulations that were hard and fast in the past that have been loosened up a bit. So you can monitor those on the Department of Education website and through the College of Education.
Don't go far. The next question, we'll go right ahead. I believe Provost Present, you'll be next too. What about classes that cannot be taught online, such as photography or ceramics or microbiology? How will those be converted for online learning? Writing papers, is that truly an effective mode of learning?
So there are an array of software opportunities out there that may not be absolutely perfect replacements for hands-on activities. I have already shared with the dean some of the websites that lead you to the appropriate online learning situations or software that might be able to be a replacement for those discovery-based opportunities that we normally hold in a clinic, in a gallery, or in a laboratory. So please be able to take a look at those. They are not an exact replacement. They may not be a perfect replacement, but these are not perfect times, and we're going to make do. They will satisfy requirements in most cases, but this is going to be faculty-driven, and the quality of those programs will be evaluated by our faculty.
This question is actually similar to the 2 questions ago, so whether you have anything to add or not. What happens for the seniors who may have internships or practices that they're required to finish for the degree? Anything you would add for that?
I don't have a lot to add for that. We are playing this by ear in many cases. If you have internships or externships or practice off campus, as long as the opportunity continues to exist, as long as there is no health threat, and that is the priority here, then it will be business as usual. If it comes that you have to leave the site, you'll have to work with your supervisors, your faculty, your advisors, the deans, the chairs, to find out what you can do to substitute for those requirements.
Here's the next question. If classes don't move online, but someone is still nervous to attend, what will happen to that student? Will they be penalized for absences?
Well, we certainly don't want to penalize students for absences.
No.
I think that would be done on a case-by-case basis. The first thing we would, if in fact we have classes on the ground, the first thing we'd ask students to do is work with their faculty member, communicate to their faculty member. We are asking faculty to be as flexible as possible. And in addition to that, we'd also ask that you consult with your advisors here at the university so that we can help you navigate the situation, or any of the student affairs personnel that may be able to help you, again, with your particular situation. So.
Great, thank you. If classes move online, does that mean all of the academic side of school is closed? All clubs, meetings, offices, gym, etc.?
Yes, no. I'm not entirely sure I know the answer to that question. All classes will be online on the academic side. The campus itself, we're asking students not to come to the campus. So I guess the answer is yes, there would not be student clubs, there would not be meetings, there would not be offices. Some offices will be open. We still need to navigate that with regard to the resources that will be available on campus.
So there might be some services available.
There will be some services available.
But probably not activities and events and the gym, et cetera.
That's probably correct.
Great.
I apologize that I don't have a complete answer to that, but as I said before, I think that over the course of the next few days, we're going to add some more detail to the answers to some of these questions.
Great.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on outside community members visiting campus? Admissions tours, sporting events, etc.
If individuals are from in-state, they're certainly welcome to come, but again, in small groups. The sporting events have been suspended. In terms of admissions tours, most of those happen in very small groups, and special accommodations would be made if folks are coming from out of state. So we're still working through that.
Can I make one note
Sure.
that we didn't make earlier about sporting events? I just want to acknowledge that we also have club sports that compete outside of campus, and that the same rules for athletics apply to our club sports. And I know that they sometimes feel unacknowledged, and I want to be sure that we also acknowledge that we have club sport teams that are competing and have been impacted by these decisions.
And now I'm looking at my team. Did I miss anything? Especially our enrollment admissions person. Okay.
Are you still planning on coming to San Diego at the end of the week?
I was scheduled to go to San Diego on Thursday, and we had a nice alumni event planned for Friday, but that conference has been canceled. I actually decided not to go prior to the conference being canceled. I don't think that's in the best interest of the institution for me not to be in town and for our leadership not to be in town. So I'm sorry I'll miss you to that individual, but I'll come another time when everything has.
Excellent. Here's an interesting question. The racism generated by this virus is almost as bad as the virus itself. How will Southern deal with anti-Asian sentiment or anti-Chinese comments? I've heard many xenophobic comments by professors about traditional Chinese diets, and am concerned for my fellow classmates.
Yeah. Well, none of that is acceptable. And what I would ask folks to do first and foremost is if you hear those things, personally, if you feel comfortable confronting those individuals, I think you should. Or secondly, if you want to share what you have heard and report that to the dean, then you should do that as well, and we'll take action. None of that behavior and that commentary is acceptable. Everyone is impacted by the virus. Everyone, regardless of their race, creed, religion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm really troubled by that. We've seen it externally in a number of news reports, and to even think that folks are engaged in that inappropriate behavior here is really disappointing. And so
this is where I'm reminded of our community values of kindness and compassion and respect and dignity and civility. And never is this more important in how we treat each other and how we understand and think about that than in times like these.
Yeah. Our priority right now is to take care of everyone in our community. Our job is to take care of each other. And anything outside of that is not what Southern is about, and is not what we value.
Right.
So,
I agree.
Yeah.
Next question. I live on campus. Should I move out over break? I don't think we're really encouraging anyone. If the question is literally take all your belongings home and move out of the buildings, we are not at a place that we are expecting to never return or making contingency plans for that. So I would say take home what you need for the break. Take home your books because you might want to study. And if we move to online learning, it would be good to have them available. But you do not need to clean out your residence hall up to when you go on break as if you will not return.
But let me reiterate again, you should take home your laptop, take home your books, take home all your course materials, because there may be a possibility that if we shift to online, I want students to be prepared.
And anything else, personal items, medications, those kind of things that you would need for more than perhaps a week if you were away longer than that.
Great.
Will there be any sort of reimbursements? For example, the cost of student activities, study abroad tuitions, time spent away from the residence halls, etc.
We're only laughing because the Vice President and our Chief Financial Officer has just stood up. So this is Mark Rzuski. Mark?
Our plan is to hold harmless financially everyone from the consequences of whatever we have to do as directed by the governor or any other state agency. So that you can count on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. What about the speech clinic on campus? Who determines what happens with the clinic and if it stays open or closes?
I don't know if we know the answer to that question yet. I think that we'll need to consult with the clinic and the faculty at that clinic. Generally, most of their clients are from in-state, are regional, and two, they're not a large group that comes all at once. So I certainly want to make sure that as an institution we're providing the much needed services the community members need. I don't think we've been able to sort through that yet. So I'll just share that we will keep folks posted, and clients of the center, that we will make sure that everyone is communicated to and that they have the information that they need.
That would be all of our clinics.
All of our clinics, yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will this impact the senior class trip? So if I may, I would remind us that the senior class trip is after the April 30th guidance that we've gotten right now. It's the week before graduation. And so I think this is another stay tuned. Let's wait and see. We're a long way from that right now. And so we have not made a decision about it. Certainly if classes, depending on how graduation proceeds, there are a lot of factors to consider, but we are not making a decision about the senior class trip today.
I also want to clarify that, yes, we've been given a date of April 30th.
Yes.
But we don't know
Yes.
if that date is a solid
It's not
date.
magical.
That's right. We just don't know. A lot will depend on what happens over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we may be able to lift that. Let's hope we don't have to extend it.
Yes.
And so
It's an example of a question we just can't quite answer
that's right.
today.
Okay.
Are all teachers truly capable of teaching online? Some professors do not even use Blackboard.
Who would like to take that question? The provost or the chief information officer? The provost is coming back. Okay.
That is an important question also. We have a number, in fact, several hundred faculty members who have already been trained in online teaching, who do a very good job right now. And IT and academic affairs have been offering an array of training programs. In fact, I think there are 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 of them this week. I'm looking over to our VP of IT. There's a lot of training opportunities this week. There'll be training opportunities during the break and thereafter. So we're trying to come up to speed for anyone who would like to gain additional skills in online learning, or for those of you who are novices and just want to get the entryway. This is going to be really important. not only because the opportunity may come before everyone is fully prepared, but because in the long term it's a great different way of offering education to our students who are asking for online educations. So the bottom line is a lot of our faculty, probably the majority of our faculty, are prepared. The majority of our faculty use Blackboard and use it well. And for those of you who need additional skills, those opportunities are available now and over the next several weeks.
Here's a nice one, President Joe. Just wanted to give a shout out and say thank you to President Joe, the vice presidents, and other Southern representatives for conducting this live stream. A great way to educate our university and clear up any questions.
Well, thank you very much. And I anticipate if this is as successful as I hope it has been, we may be utilizing this format again to keep individuals informed, whether it's over the break or if we find that we have to go online, we may use this mechanism again. The public relations people to my left, their eyes just got wide because this is a lot of work, and I really want to thank them for the good work that they're doing.
Happen.
Great.
I'm supposed to go to Iceland over spring break. Is that going to be an issue when I return?
Again, I think a lot of the questions that are being asked really center around this. I'm leaving for spring break, and so I think the rules can continue to apply. I hope that you will be able to go to Iceland. I'm not aware of whether or not there are cases there, or if that is considered a hot zone, but. If that is not the case and you feel safe and comfortable traveling there, then by all means, we hope that you will have a great trip. But again, please self-monitor. Please make sure that if you have a sense of whether or not, I'll say again, that you were exposed or that you have symptoms when you get back, please connect with a health provider, and again, we'll continue to provide clarity and direction.
Make sure you register that trip so we know.
Make sure you register that trip. That's very important. That helps us to help you in making the transition back to the university seamless.
Great.
Okay? Great.
Mr. Rozeski, what does he mean? What does Mr. Rozeski mean by hold harmless? Good question.
Well, I think I can speak authoritatively to what Mr. Rozeski meant because I'm Mr. Rozeski. So what I'd like to tell you is that your personal financial exposure for something you may have lost as a result of our directives, we are going to reimburse you.
Thank you.
So just to I'm going to add to that for clarification, because there have been some questions about residence halls in particular. So if, for example, we tell you that you can't come back to the university and come back to your residence hall and partake in your meal plan for a certain period of time, we will prorate that, and you'll get a portion of your dollars back. But Mr. Rozeski's great, so we'll work it out, I promise.
How often do you receive updates about the coronavirus, and will you share what the sources are?
We receive updates, multiple updates pretty regularly. Those updates are from three sources. We do receive updates from the CDC. We receive updates from the Connecticut Department of Health, and we receive updates and instructions from the Connecticut State College and University System based in Hartford. And then Diane Morgenthaler, our own MD here on campus, who is the director of our health services, she also helps to coordinate all of this. So we are getting a lot of information. We then try to take that information and pull it together and add it to our website so that you can check the most up-to-date information that we have.
Good.
Yeah.
As a faculty member living with 2 people with compromised health issues, I feel a special need to be vigilant. Can I change to online for my classes if the university does not make this decision?
I think that that is a decision that is a decision that I would ask a faculty member to work out with their dean and their department chair. We certainly want to accommodate folks. I have 2 elderly parents myself, and I know that I'm certainly worried about the people in my life, the people that are important to me. So I do think that I want to reiterate that while we are talking about classes, while we are talking about services, the most important thing is your personal health, your personal decision related to your health, and your family. Family comes first. Those people that you care about and are in your life, those individuals come first. And I think that you need to make the decisions that are best for you and your family, and we will do everything possible to support those decisions. So. Can I have another question? We're waiting for a question to come up. Okay, so while we're doing that, again, I think that I want to reiterate some of the things we've already talked about. Oh, look at that. Should we start rescheduling events to after April 30th or wait? I think that we talked a little bit about this earlier today, Tracy.
Yes, we did.
And what was our decision there?
Yeah, so I think we just want to wait right now. We want to just keep monitoring the situation. We need to be cognizant of things that require financial investments and kind of what that means. And yet, we're not ready just to sort of throw in the towel for the whole rest of the academic year. So right now, I think we are, we just don't want to over-respond, and we want to respond appropriately. And let's just keep working with our departments and our leaders, our department leaders, our student leaders, and kind of work through this one step at a time.
Right. And so the goal there, again, don't cancel any reservations, don't cancel any contracts.
Consult if it has some big financial implications one way or the other.
Excellent.
Good. What happens if a case breaks out in the residence halls, and what happens with the Res Life staff jobs? So we are prepared to respond if we are to identify that a student has COVID-19 in our residence halls. We have quarantine possibilities available both in student health and in the residence halls. We will, I guess it depends a little bit on what that situation looks like, but we will be prepared to take appropriate cautions and measures in terms of cleanliness, in terms of what kind of response. We are not looking to put anybody in danger. We recognize that our RAs and our professional staff in the residence halls also have personal concerns, and we will continue to work with them in terms of those concerns and our response. And if we at some point need to relocate residents, if we need to close certain sections or certain places, if we have COVID-19 on campus anywhere, it's going to require a different level of response, and we will pay special attention to our residential students, and at that point are likely to be removing people from campus. And that will just be one piece of that equation.
Yeah, I would take that a step further. I think that to have a confirmed case on our campus, which we do not have.
Correct.
And we do not suspect that we have at this time. But if that happened, I think we would be having a broader discussion, not just about the residence halls,
Right.
but about the institution as a whole.
Right.
Right.
What is facilities operation doing to mediate exposures?
We'll let Mark come back and answer that question.
Sure. Facilities Operations has a plan to begin immediately, actually, cleaning every classroom, every assembly space in most common areas, and begin to make ready for reopening. And so that's actually going to happen with a lot of the workforce on overtime, and is beginning tomorrow night.
Mark, I might add that if I'm correct, we have also worked to repair, replace, and fill all of the hand sanitizers, and we added a number of sanitizing wipe stations throughout campus. Is that correct?
And we're going to add more.
And we're going to add more. Okay, very good. Thank you.
So grab those wipes, wipe down the railings, wipe down the doorknobs. Everyone can be a part of helping to facilitate cleaning on campus if you'll use the tools that are available. Mm-hmm. What do I do if classes are moved online and I don't have internet or a laptop? Will IT support be made available?
Okay, I think I can answer this question unless you'd like to answer it. Our IT operation is exploring loan programs for our students and options for laptops. We're still looking into that. And if your home does not have internet, is not accessible to internet, we're going to encourage you to find the free hotspots that are all in your neighborhood. They're practically everywhere. Starbucks, McDonald's. Dennis, have I missed anything? No, you didn't. Okay, so that is
who should they let know if they'd like to talk about kind of needing a laptop? Contact the help desk. So
Perfect.
If you are concerned about this and you want to get on a list or talk about the availability of a laptop, contact the IT help desk.
The help desk can also point you in the right direction of, okay, where do you live? And we'll even help you to find those hotspots if you need us to help with that.
Good.
Great. Have we run out of questions? I'm pretty confident that we have quite a few questions. We're waiting for them to pop up. I have a student here who do you have a question for me?
What will happen with student workers?
So the question is about student workers on campus. What will happen?
What will happen with student workers? Okay. Julie, would you like to? Julie Edstrom is our Vice President for Enrollment, and she oversees financial aid and admissions, et cetera.
There are some accommodations from the Department of Education regarding work study in situations like this, and we are currently researching the language and what our options might be. I hope to have some answers about that in the coming days, but we are hoping to provide as much flexibility as we can.
Okay. I think we would add to that that for federal work study, we're looking for some flexibility there. Now, for students that are on just work study that is not sponsored by the Department of Education, that's something we're going to need to look into because students physically won't be here to be able to work those hours. And in some cases, we understand that our students may need those dollars and they rely on those dollars. So Student Affairs does have some ability through some emergency funding and other supports. So those are things that we will take a look at, and we will try to be as flexible and supportive as we can.
Sure.
Yep.
Can you please repeat your response to what will happen to residents who have nowhere to go? I apologize if I weren't clear. The process is still being developed, but it will look similar, I believe, to how we ask you to register for break housing. Residence Life will have a mechanism by which you can indicate that you would like to remain on campus, and you will speak with your hall director about that. You might go ahead, if you want to begin planning for that, to reach out to your hall director and begin to talk about what your needs might be if you do not have a place to go off campus should we go to online learning.
Right.
Great.
Excellent. Very good.
I'm an international student, so I don't have a local doctor or someone to go to. If I believe I have symptoms of the virus, what should I do? Well, that is exactly what Student Health Services is for. So that should be your first line for health care. If you believe you have symptoms of the virus similar to off-campus health facilities, we'd ask that you call them first so they are aware that you're coming. We just don't want these symptoms sitting in waiting rooms amongst other people who might be sick, but not with these symptoms. So if you would call Student Health, let them know, then they will ask you to come over and they will evaluate and provide the test. So healthcare is available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and otherwise they can work with you and other needs that you might have.
Very good.
How often are computers, keyboards, and copiers being cleaned?
I'd like to introduce Dennis Ryman. Dennis is our Chief Information Officer.
We have established a weekly cleaning process for all of the lab equipment. However, in addition to that, I do recommend that anybody that's using a smartphone, that's probably 100% of you, begin practices in terms of continual cleaning of those devices, because as you touch doors, as you touch desks, you're going to be transferring whatever that is to your device as you place that against your face, against your hands. So I do recommend that you look up your device manufacturer's recommended ways to clean those devices, and I think they'll establish a good practice.
Dennis, in addition to that, though, should individuals, I have my own computer and a keyboard at my own desk, and someone may come in to clean it, but the truth is that I'm using it every day. So what do you suggest I do with my computer, my phone on the desk? Are there options there?
Yeah, I do recommend that you begin cleaning those as often as possible. And if you have any questions regarding the best protocol to use, please contact our help desk.
Okay, and there are we have wipes all over the place now, so so you can even grab one of those and just do a quick wipe of your keyboard.
Those should be safe for the mouse and for the keyboards, but I do not recommend using those on the screens.
On the screens, yes. Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Will the sanitation stations, wipes and Purell, be made available in other buildings such as Jennings and Morrill?
Yes, they will. We bought the first 57 was our entire vendor's supply. So we're waiting for some more. But yes, our plan is to have every principal building equipped with large amounts of these wipes.
Disinfectants. Thank you very much. Okay.
If students are off campus, will we close school for non-essential employees and mandate that we work from home?
That is possible. If the university decides to engage online learning, I want to be clear, the university will not be closed. We will still be functioning. We will still be providing education for our students so that we can make every effort to ensure that our students complete their programs in a timely manner and that they graduate. With regard to non-essential employees, again, that is something that we are exploring. In some cases, there may be an opportunity to work from home. In other cases, depending on the office, we may ask folks to come in. So I think we're going to be, that's going to be pretty fluid right now. But what I will share is that just because we don't have students here doesn't mean that we're not open or that we all have job responsibilities. In fact, I think spring break is a good example. While it is true that our students aren't here, our faculty are engaged in work both on campus and off campus at that time, and all of us who are on the staff and administration, we're generally here.
Fully functioning.
We're fully functioning. So it may look different, but we will continue to function.
Great. This is just clarity again about experiential learning. What happens to nursing students who have clinical placements in hospitals?
This is a question that our nursing faculty and leadership wrestled with this past weekend, and in consultation with an array of their colleagues throughout the state and throughout the nation, and through recommendations of organizations, nursing organizations, the decision has been made, and I think it's been made throughout the state institutions, to keep our students in place as long as there are no active viruses and no threat of exposure. And again, for those nursing students out there who need additional information, please contact the College of Health and Human Services and Dean Bulmart, who can give you the details.
Thank you, Bob.
Is this live stream being recorded so that people who are in class or otherwise can't view it could view it later?
Yes, it is.
Excellent.
And
It'll be available on the
access to
website.
that will be on the website, yes.
Great.
Very good.
If Southern is closed after spring break, how will academic advising appointments be issued for class registration in April? So we've had some early conversations about this, and I don't know, Julie, whether you want to help from a registrar perspective or not, but right now, assuming that online learning means business as usual, we would expect those appointments to be issued for class registration per usual. We may have to do advising by phone or internet or WebEx or Teams, other different ways that we would deliver that academic advising from faculty and staff to students off campus. But right now, we expect that advising and registration will proceed per the timelines that have already been identified. Anything else? Good? Okay.
Great.
Does the laptop question apply to faculty and staff as well? Contact IT for a loaner, or is it certain personnel?
We're working with the Division of Academic Affairs to identify the faculty that are in need of laptops right now, particularly the adjuncts. And then also for those that are in the staff that require a laptop, I recommend please work with your supervisor and then work with the help desk, or work with, you can send me an email or somebody in IT an email, and we'll make sure it gets to the right place. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Dennis. If one Connecticut state school closes, will all close?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think that we've consulted with the Connecticut State College and University system to ask about that. There are a number of private institutions that have decided to begin spring break early and extend spring break and then begin the process of offering classes online. At this stage, my understanding is that this would be a decision for all schools. However, if we are provided with the opportunity to make those decisions independently, then as a team, as a leadership team, and with members of our community, we'll then make the decision that we think is best for Southern here in New Haven.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Will the university provide funding for Adobe programs that students may need to complete classwork?
I do not have an answer to the question yet, but we will be looking into what software it will be made available for remote work by both faculty and students. And so we'll be posting that on our frequently asked questions page as soon as we have the answers.
Maybe it's fair to say, Dennis, that we won't expect them to purchase software in great measure that will be required. Do you think that's fair, or at least for them to think about that?
Yeah, for most of the work that's going to be required, Office 365 is available to all students, faculty, and staff, and that allows you to do 5 downloads of that of the Microsoft Office suite onto your personal desktop computer or also on your mobile devices.
Thank you. That's the same question.
That's the same question. Very
We're
good.
just waiting for the next one.
We're waiting for the next question. Okay. And here we go. Not yet.
Here we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Are there any cases of Southern students or faculty members being exposed or carrying the virus?
To the best of our knowledge, the answer is no.
Correct. Not that we are aware of.
Not that we are aware of. That is correct. Yes. And if, in fact, that were to happen, as I shared with you before, we would begin to talk about the impact on the entire campus and then make some decisions accordingly.
Will there be any problems for international students from other countries that are studying abroad at Southern?
Will there be any problems for international students from other countries that are from other countries that are studying here.
Right,
Well,
so short-term studies maybe as opposed to international students that are degree seeking.
Well, those students would already be here, and that would have probably been before the outbreak. So those students are already part of the community, and we will offer as much assistance as possible to those students to make sure that they have a place, that they have a home, that they're cared for. But I will add that we did work, our Office of International Student Services has worked very closely with those students, and also with students that were overseas, Southern students who were studying in other countries. And so we made arrangements for students to come back from those countries. They did not return to campus. They were sent home, where they were asked to quarantine and, if necessary, meet with their health professionals. So I think that we're balancing all of that pretty well.
I would say if there are additional questions that we don't know how to anticipate from that please ask the Office of International Education. If it's about residential situation, please ask the Res Life staff. We would be happy to answer whatever that might include. Dr. Tyree, you mentioned WebEx will be the method in which professors live stream with students. When I was talking about live streaming, it was really about advising, and WebEx is one option that we will have available. Teams is another option. In terms of academic advising, one-on-one interactions, that could be by phone, it could be by like Skyping or that kind of video communication. So we have many different options, and some of it will be based on what the professor chooses, the academic advisor chooses, the course warrants, etc. So we have multiple means by which we can communicate with students and serve students and teach students off campus.
And if we move in that direction, again, we will provide all of that information as to what platforms people will be using. We are training faculty on specific platforms, and we'll want there to be some consistency across the board wherever we can make that happen.
Are there extra counseling hours being offered on the weekends for those who may feel more anxiety than normal? So right now, we have not made any accommodations for weekend hours or after hours differently than what we already provide in terms of support. I don't know if with your background, whether you have any expertise you would offer. This is one I had a brief conversation with Dr. Pinkerton, the Director of Counseling Services. And in some ways, in these kind of situations, the community nature actually lowers anxiety rather than increases it, because it's a shared experience as opposed to a personal individual experience. If there is something about this that kind of elevates this for a student, we encourage them a lot of self-care. And that's really important. We certainly have counselors available throughout the workday, and as long as we are open, they will be available, even if it's at a distance. Next week, while we're on spring break, we're still fully operational, and if we go to online learning without closing the campus. So we definitely are looking at how to best support the mental health of our students. And I think if you have any specific questions or concerns, you should reach out to counseling services or others who may provide that support.
Agreed.
Do we have any test kits on campus?
To the best of my knowledge, the answer to that is no.
I think that is true, that we would go through the state just like most health agencies are doing so right now. We have the ability, I believe, to send for a sample to be tested, but that testing gets sent away. It doesn't happen on our campus. I believe that is true.
Very good.
If schools surrounding us, such as Harvard, Yale, the University of New Haven, and Sacred Heart have been canceled, why haven't we been canceled?
I think I spoke to this earlier, and that is we are working closely with the Connecticut State College and University system, who in turn is working with the governor's office. That is a decision that is made in concert with them. I do have to say that it's my understanding that at some of these institutions, they actually were concerned about specific cases of exposure.
Right.
And as a result of that, they chose to then essentially send students home early for spring break. We have not experienced or are aware of a case of exposure, so I think that also contributes to the decision that we're making to whether or not the CSUs remain open.
It's a reminder that all things aren't equal, even when
things
we
are
all
not
have this
equal.
shared experience
That is
together.
correct, yes.
Are all of the functions on Blackboard compatible on a smartphone? Also, be sure to wipe down that microphone. Good advice. Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Dennis, can you answer the question? I'm not that familiar with smartphones and Blackboard.
Yeah, I don't believe that all the functions are supported natively on the mobile application. However, most of the features are available using a web browser without any plugins. And so I really do encourage you to make sure that you have the latest browser software installed on your devices, and make sure that you have any other plugins that may be required for the classes in case your faculty member might be using WebEx, and there's a preference that you actually use the built-in product versus the web add-on, then you can go ahead and try that out before you actually access the class. And I also do recommend that you take the opportunity to go into Blackboard as soon as you can. In the top right is our tutorials, and there are tutorials for both students and faculty to be able to access some training resources. And we'll also be putting together some additional information on the frequently asked questions site that's going to identify what software is available for students and if they have any additional questions. And that the same goes with our faculty as well.
Thank you. If classes go online, would that's Con Hall, and STU, that's the Student Center Food Court, still be open for food? Would that be a safety concern for over 100 people to be eating at the same time? Well, I'd like to start with, I think we would assess how many students we have that are staying on campus first to determine what kind of food options we might need to have available. We have not made that kind of decision just yet. That will be kind of in our next wave of planning. And so I don't know the precise answer to that. Probably not both. We would, if we're providing food, would provide it in a more focused way because we would not anticipate that being a large number of students that would need to be fed.
Great.
If a positive case were to be reported at SCSU, how would it be handled and how soon would we know about the situation?
Well, I think that we would handle it like any of the other cases that are being handled in the state and other institutions. First, we would ensure that that particular individual was quarantined and saw health professionals. Secondly, I anticipate that we would then be in direct contact with all of the individuals that person may have been in contact with. We would try to...
The Department of Health would help us with that.
That's right. And so the goal would be to try to reach out to those individuals because of the possibility of exposure. They would probably then also be asked to self-quarantine. We would certainly let the campus know immediately, if for no other, because one, that's the right thing to do, but more importantly, because we would be reporting that to the health department, that would become public information almost immediately. I do think that if that were the case, to be candid, we would probably be taking action similar to all of the other universities who have made the decision to essentially close for the time being, regroup, and then offer courses online.
It reminds us about the dynamic nature of this situation and how quickly we might need to respond, and therefore how ready we need to be should we find ourselves in that situation. Would the library be open for studying and internet access even with classes online?
So the director of our library, Clara Agba, and her team are currently working on a library continuity plan. We don't have that plan fully resolved yet. The assumption is right now that the library will remain open. What resources are specifically available will be navigated through their continuity plan. So hang on, that's coming.
And would it be fair to say, Bob, that some of that will be consistent with how other kind of facilities and messages we would send about whether students should be coming to campus even to utilize these services, or they need to be provided somehow at a distance? Does that make sense?
It does. So let me expand that just a little bit. We've had a lot of conversation about what access to campus will be available to our students, to our staff, to our faculty, who are not necessary for day-to-day operation of the university. Without holding classes here, what will be the access for students who have research programs or needs to be on campus? We will put out some advisement for that. The recommendation right now is that limited access for those students who need to be on campus will be available, but we'll have to be notifying our police department so they know who's here at any given time.
Please don't go far. This next question looks like Dennis thinks you might address the beginning part. Is there extra emergency funds to support online learning since most instructional softwares require subscription? That could be a team effort here between Mark, Bob, and Dennis. Just 1 minute, please.
So there are several of us involved in trying to answer this particular question. Certainly, as it becomes mandatory to assure that our students have the best access and the appropriate access to their continued education, should we go fully online, we will look at it on a case-by-case basis. There are some funds available to help, but we're going to have to be cognizant of the fact that there could be many needs, and we don't exactly know what they are quite yet. Dennis, you want to elaborate on that? He doesn't. Second part.
So the second part of the question is, will there be IT distance support or a hotline to answer or support faculty if and when the university closes?
Yes, we do have a 24/7 support help desk that is actually run by Blackboard to be able to provide answers to faculty and student questions regarding how to use Blackboard and ways to be able to improve the experience through the online learning management system.
What about other IT questions?
For other IT questions, please just submit those to the help desk. Regardless of whether we're remote or on campus, we will be continue to provide support.
To be clear, if we go online, those who live on campus will be sent home, and for those who do not have a place of residence, then they'll proceed in the manner of staying on campus as if they were staying on campus for regular spring break. Today, I think the answer to that is yes. This is an ever-evolving situation. We are continuing to form these plans, but right now it is our intent to not fully close the residence halls, but we do hope it's sort of small. If we get to the point that we're going to online learning, we imagine vacating the residence halls like we do for breaks or other down times, and then accommodating those who really need a place to stay, and we will have a registration process, and the residence life staff will facilitate that. So yes, that is our plan as of right now.
Great. Tracy, we have time for just a couple more questions, and then I'll give some further instruction.
Great.
Maybe not. Well, while we're waiting for the next question to come up, actually, there are two things that I would like to share with the community that I think are particularly important. To parents, family members, to our alumni, we are asking for your help and support as we navigate this particular situation. This is a community effort, not just for the folks that are here on campus and for the folks that work here and attend here, but all of those who are going to who are connected in some way.
Sure.
Family members, parents, friends, alumni. You can certainly help us. We ask you to stay informed, both through the website, through the family Facebook page, through the alumni page. We also ask you to feel free to ask questions wherever you can do so. And we ask you again to offer support and encouragement as students go through whatever adjustments they need to go through, because for some students, the online experience will be a new experience for them as well. So a lot to consider.
If I might say,
please.
I'd like to use the mantra that I often use in my work and with my team, which is assume the best. Assume the best. The university wants the best for all of us. We want the best for our students. We're doing the very best we can with an evolving situation. So please give us some grace and be patient and help us help you, and know that while a decision might feel bad to an individual, or this feels really hard to lots of people, we are trying to do our best to keep everyone healthy and safe. And so assume the best of the decisions, even if they feel hard as we go along.
Sure. I mean, this is going to be hard.
It is.
And as I shared earlier, I know that this can be frustrating, it can be disappointing, it can be scary.
Right.
And all of those feelings are natural, they're real. But as I shared yesterday, I think this is also an opportunity for us as a community to rise to the occasion and to really highlight who we are as a caring community and how we make sure that we are taking care of one another and that we're treating each other with dignity, respect, kindness, compassion, and civility. Know that as it is stressful at times and frustrating for students and for family members, the truth is that you can assume that we've experienced those same feelings. So I think I really appreciate you saying that, Tracy, because I think that at the end of the day, we're all in this together. I promise you that we're going to continue to share as much information. In fact, we're going to share all the information with you as we have that information. What I've shared with you today, what we've shared with you today, is what we know at this time. So it is very important that you check your university emails regularly, that you follow our social media for the most up-to-date information. If you have a specific question that hasn't been answered today, you can visit our FAQ on Southern Connecticut, southernct.edu/coronavirus. And you can continue to submit questions there as well, and we will do our best to, if not answer them individually, we will do our best to, many of them are repetitive, so that we will bulk them together and put them in the FAQ. I believe that we had hundreds of questions. I'm being told we had 700 questions today.
Wow.
Unfortunately, we don't have the time to address 700 questions.
But we got lots of them.
We got lots of them, and I appreciate the fact that folks have taken the time to answer the questions. If your question didn't get answered today, I apologize for that, but I know that you understand. And again, we're gonna go through all of the questions and try to provide as much information as possible. In some cases, as Tracy already alluded to, we may have not given you the answer that you hoped for, but it is the best answer that we know we can give at this time, and that's in the best interest of the institution. I want to thank Tracy, and I want to thank the team for being here today and for being able to respond to some of your questions. I also want to thank the members of our public relations team who have helped to pull all of this together. This was very last minute, as you can imagine. And finally, what I would say is I want to thank all of you and the members of our community for your patience, for your resilience, for helping to navigate a very fluid and sometimes difficult situation. Again, we will continue to provide you with the most up-to-date information. We may wind up using, as I mentioned earlier, this live streaming again in the future. But let me reiterate: go check your email, go to all of our social media sites, go to the Facebook, go to the our webpage to get the most up-to-date information. And I'm looking at a final comment that's here, and this is actually to the team. Just a comment, this was helpful and informative. You all did a fine job. Well, thank you very much for that. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you. Let's help each other to remain safe and healthy. And in the meantime, for those of you that are headed out, enjoy your spring break. We'll be in touch. We'll keep you informed. Thank you very much. Thank you for all you do for Southern and for our students.